First, let's have a look at the top stories. Pope Leo XIV reaffirms the Second Vatican Council as a guiding star for Church's journey. Malawi Local Government Authority and governance expert applaud President Mutharika for withholding assent to Constituency Development Fund Amendment Bill. Governance expert hails President Mutharika's first 3 months in office as successful despite economic challenges. And in other news, incumbent Central African Republic President wins 76.15% of votes as opposition alleges irregularities. We do have the details to these and the other stories, so stay tuned. Pope Leo XIV has reaffirmed that the teaching of the Second Vatican Council continues to serve as the guiding star of the Church's journey, urging the faithful to rediscover its enduring relevance by returning directly to its documents. The Holy Father made these remarks during his Wednesday General Audience of the Vatican as he began a new catechism series dedicated to the Second Vatican Council and the rereading of its documents, following the Jubilee Year reflections on the mysteries of Christ's life. We have a Vatican News report read by Tandiwe Mzumara.
Opening the new series, Pope Leo described the Council as a valuable opportunity to rediscover the beauty and importance of this ecclesial event, recalling Pope St. John Paul II's words at the close of the Jubilee Year 2000 when he called Vatican II the great grace bestowed on the Church in the 20th century. The Pope recalled that in 2025, the Church marked the 70th anniversary of Vatican Council II, alongside the anniversary of the Council of Nicaea. While the event itself is not distant in time, he noted that the generation of bishops, theologians, and believers who experienced the Council firsthand is no longer with us. For this reason, Pope Leo stressed the importance of becoming reacquainted with Vatican II, not through hearsay or later interpretations, but by rereading its documents and reflecting deeply on their content. He underlined that it is precisely the magisterium that continues to constitute the North Star guiding the Church today. Recalling the opening of the Council by Pope St. John Paul XXIII on October 11, 1962, Pope Leo reflected on the words describing it as the dawn of a day of light for the whole Church, observing that the work of the Council Fathers from every continent ushered in a new ecclesial season. The Pope highlighted that Vatican II rediscovered the face of God as Father, who in Christ calls humanity to be his children. At the same time, Pope Leo said the Council helped the Church to open herself to the world, engaging the changes and challenges of the modern age through dialogue and shared responsibility, and committing herself to building a more just and fraternal society. He recorded the words of the future Pope John Paul I, who wrote at the beginning of the Council that what is needed above all is not new structures or methods, but deeper and more widespread holiness. Concluding his catechism, Pope Leo XIV invited the faithful to approach the documents of Vatican Council II with renewed attention, welcoming the Church's rich tradition while questioning the present and renewing the joy of bringing the gospel of the kingdom of God, a kingdom of love, justice, and peace to the world.
The Malawi Local Government Authority MAGA and governance expert George Chaima have commended President Peter Mutharika for withholding assent to the Constituency Development Fund CDF Amendment Bill, describing the move as a strong demonstration of commitment to constitutionalism, the rule of law, and democratic governance. This comes as President Mutharika has withheld assent to the CDF Amendment Bill, directing the Ministers of Justice and Constitutional Affairs and Finance and Economic Planning to develop administrative guidelines for the management of the CDF. While applauding the President, MAGA Executive Director Harlot Zelum Kandawile and Chaima have also urged the Ministries of Justice and Finance to ensure inclusive and transparent guidelines. More details in this report, followed by Gift Kalonga.
Speaking with Luntha TV, MAGA Executive Director Hadrod Nzeru Nkandawire welcomed President Mutharika's decision to withhold assent to the CDF Amendment Bill, describing it as a move that upholds constitutionalism, the rule of law, and democratic governance. He further urged the Ministries of Justice and Finance to ensure that the guidelines for managing Constituency Development Fund (CDF) are transparent, inclusive, and involve consultations with all key stakeholders.
We are profoundly grateful to the President for this decision, which conforms square well with our call for the President not to assent to the bill. We further welcome the President's directive to the Ministries of Justice and Finance, where he has directed that the two ministries should draft the guidelines that will oversee management of a Constituency Development Fund.
Concurring with Nkandawire, governance expert Dr. George Chaima praised President Peter Mutharika for prioritizing rural development through the Constituency Development Fund (CDF), noting that proper management of the fund could transform rural areas. He emphasized that past misuse of the facility by some officials hindered progress and called for strong legal framework to ensure that ward councillors, chiefs, and local communities manage the funds effectively for tangible development.
Developing rural areas is met by sticking to the principle of locating this facility to the hands of rural areas. And there must be strong legal framework to protect the management and usage of this facility.
Civil society organizations recently wrote Mutharika urging him to snub the bill on the premise that, among others, the proposed law undermines an active judicial process as the appeal on the matter remains pending before the Supreme Court of Appeal, and that the bill is a threat to decentralization and local government. For Luntha News, this is Gift Kalonga.
Good governance and political expert Dr. George Chaima has described President Professor Peter Mutharika's 3.5 months in office as successful, despite assuming power at a time when Malawi was facing numerous economic and social challenges. Dr. Chaima said President Mutharika inherited a struggling economy from his predecessor, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, noting that the new administration came into office amid widespread shortages and rising cost of living. According to Dr. Chaima, the September 16, 2025 general elections reflected Malawians' confidence in Professor Mutharika's leadership, believing that he had the experience and capacity to address the challenges the country was encountering. Emmanuel Georgia with the details.
Dr. Chaima noted that President Mutharika took over leadership when the country was grappling with acute foreign exchange shortages, fuel scarcity, maize shortage that resulted in hunger and rising prices of basic commodities. According to Dr. Chaima, in the first 3 months of his presidency, Mutharika has made a deliberate effort to stabilize the situation, adding that although the period is short, visible steps have been taken to restore normalcy in key sectors. Then pointed out that upon assuming office, President Mutharika directed his ministers to actively execute their responsibility in addressing the challenges engulfing the countries, a move he said has begun to yield positive results.
Directing his ministers to start looking for solutions to the challenges the country is going through. For example, he directed the Minister of Agriculture to make sure that he brings maize in the country. And those maize from Zambia, which now we can say has started arriving in the country. And besides that, we saw the Minister of Finance trying to go outside the country, looking for possible.
He concluded that while more time is needed to fully assess the administration performance, the early signs indicate the government that is focused, responsive, expressing optimism that continued to commitment will lead to a sustainable solutions to Malawi's challenges. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, this is Emmanuel Georgia.
Malawi's top commercial banks, including Centenary, NBS, and First Capital, have announced low interest rates that development experts believe will ease borrowing costs and support economic growth. Economic expert Moa Tobias has noted that the recent interest rate cuts, though small, ease borrowing costs for businesses and individuals and send a positive signal for the economy if the trend continues. More details in this report followed by Gift Kalonga.
Tobias explained that while Reserve Bank sets the policy rate, commercial banks determine their own lending and deposit rates. The recent reductions mean borrowing costs for businesses and individuals have eased, providing some relief. He added that although the cuts are small, they send a positive signal for the economy, and if the trend continues, it could further reduce the financial burden on borrowers and support economic growth.
The cost of borrowing has reduced, which is good for economy because it means that the burden of companies and individuals who may want to borrow to expand or grow their business or start their businesses is now less than it used to be.
Centenary Bank recently cut its lending rate from 25.30% to 25.20% following similar reductions by NBS Bank and First Capital Bank, indicating a gradual move towards more accessible credit for business and consumers. For Luntha News, this is Gift Kalonga.
You're watching news on Luntha Television. Now a reminder of the top stories. Pope Leo XIV reaffirms the Second Vatican Council as a guiding star for Church's journey. Malawi Local Government Authority and governance expert applaud President Mutharika for withholding assent to Constituency Development Fund Amendment Bill. Governance expert hails President Mutharika's first 3 months in office as successful despite economic challenges. And in other news, incumbent Central African Republic President wins 76.15% of votes as opposition alleges irregularities. Moving on with the news, the Malawi Prison Service MPS says the restorative justice and peace-building program being implemented between inmates and victims is making significant progress across the country. According to Malawi Prison Service spokesperson Steve Meke, reconciliation meetings between victims and offenders are yielding positive results and contributing to reduced cases of reoffending after inmates are released from prison. Emmanuel Georgia reports.
According to Meke, it has been 4 years since the Restorative Justice and Peace-Building Program was launched, and its impact is now clearly visible as reoffending rates continue to decline. He explained that the program creates a platform where offenders take responsibility for their actions while victims are given an opportunity to express how crime affected their lives. Meke then noted that the initiative has helped rebuild trust and restore broken relationships between offenders, victims, families, and communities.
We have enhanced our activities in as far as family conferences are concerned. These are conferences involving families of the victim and that of the offender to make sure that they repair the broken relationship and of course lessen the harm that was done after one had committed a crime.
Malawi Prison Service is currently focusing on reconciliation meetings, family conferences, and community dialogue as key pillars for the program. The Malawi Prison Service has since expressed continued commitment towards strengthening restorative justice initiative, saying their approach not only promotes peace and healing, but also support successive reintegration of the former inmates into society, ultimately contributing to safer communities across the country. For Luntha News, in Lilongwe, This is Emmanuel Juocha.
Airtel Malawi Managing Director Ashish Dutt says the newly launched Nzelu Scholarship Fund, established in partnership with the Malawi University of Science and Technology MUST, will provide opportunities for financially disadvantaged students to access higher education at the institution. Dutt made the remarks earlier today during the signing ceremony between Airtel Malawi and MUST. Bridget Manoka reports.
Dutt said studies have shown that many university students face financial challenges, prompting the initiative to support those selected through a merit-based approach. He added that Airtel believes in promoting innovation, science and technology and sees MUST as a strong partner in advancing these goals.
We are aligned to the government's 2063 vision on digitization as well as education. So as a business, while we are working towards making the country digitized, we are also wanting to play our part to support students so they can realize their dreams and achieve what they want to do in their life and should not be deprived just because they do not have resources. So the 25 children and 25 capable students will be supported through Airtel's Nzelu Fund.
On her part, Malawi University of Science and Technology Vice Chancellor Professor Adres Malata said the partnership with Airtel Malawi through the Nzelu Fund will help support students who are unable to access higher education because of financial constraints.
So this partnership is very significant with Airtel Malawi. We have had conversations over the years. I think we started discussion maybe 10 years ago, but finally they have come up with a scholarship for students. I think they have other initiatives in the primary education, but they are also focusing on higher education. And significant because this year, those students who are selected to come to MUST for STEM programs, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, they can actually access this program, this scholarship, and it is for 25 students. So it is quite significant. And their scholarship, they are covering everything from tuition to accommodation to food. They will also make sure that these students are enabled to access internet, and they will be supported throughout their areas of study. There are times people give scholarships that are on a yearly basis, but this scholarship is once you get it for the 4 years or 5-year program, you are assured of a scholarship. So
through Nzelu Fund, Airtel Malawi will be supporting 25 students in their studies at the Malawi University of Science and Technology, MUST. Bridget Manoka, Luntha News.
And in other news, the Central African Republic CAR President Faustina Archange has secured a third term in office after winning an outright majority in last month's presidential election, according to provisional results. The 68-year-old former mathematics professor was widely expected to win after the main opposition coalition boycotted the poll, citing concerns over electoral fairness. We have an African News reporter read by Tandiwe Nzumara.
Touadera campaigned largely on his security record in the chronically unstable country, which has faced persistent conflict since rebels seized power in 2013. That crisis prompted the government to enlist support from Russian mercenaries and Rwandan troops. However, his leadership has drawn criticism following the adoption of a new constitution in 2023 that removed presidential term limits, allowing him to seek re-election indefinitely. More than 2.4 million people registered to vote in the 28 December general election. Election observers described the process as largely peaceful, despite delays caused by the late delivery of voting materials and issues with the voters' register. According to preliminary results announced late Monday by the election authority, Touadera secured about 76% of the vote. His closest rivals, former Prime Ministers Ansted Georges Dologuere and Henry Marie Dondra, received 15% and 3% respectively. Both opposition candidates have rejected the results and called for the election to be annulled, alleging widespread fraud and irregularities. On Friday, Dologuere accused authorities of carrying out what he described as a methodical attempt to manipulate the outcome. The main opposition coalition, known by its French acronym BRDC, boycotted the election, arguing that the process could not be free or fair. The government has dismissed the allegations. The Constitutional Court has until 20 January to rule on any legal challenges and declare the final results.
That Africa News Report read by Tandiwe Mzumala also brings us to the end of our today's edition of news. But let's have a recap of the top stories before we go. Pope Leo XIV reaffirms the Second Vatican Council as a guiding star for Church's journey. Malawi Local Government Authority and governance expert applaud President Mutharika for withholding assent to Constituency Development Fund Amendment Bill. Governance expert hails President Mutharika's first 3 months in office as successful despite economic challenges. And in other news, incumbent Central African Republic President wins 76.15% of votes as opposition alleges irregularities. You've been with me, Charity Chelanga. Thanks for the pleasure of your company and goodbye.